there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul, and I'm calling it my May book haul because I already did an April book haul and I have a lot of books to show you guys, so I don't want to wait too long. But before we go ahead and get on into the haul, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box for links to all of my social media, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. So a lot of these books were gifts, and then a couple of them I got for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the books that were gifted to me. First off, thank you to those who sent me stuff. I just don't expect anything from anybody, and you all are just so kind and so sweet, and it warms my heart. And I am so excited to read everything that y'all sent me. The first book my good bookish friend Walker Wrights sent me, and that is An Unkindness of Magicians by Kate Howard. This is an adult standalone fantasy story that I have had my eye on for years and years and years, so I'm so glad that I finally have it in my possession. Thank you so much for sending this to me. But this book takes place in our current world in New York City, and there is kind of like an underground population of magicians. Every 20 years, these different magical houses, these family houses, have this duel to determine who is going to be the new dominant house. We follow two different characters. We follow Ian, who has been elected to become his house's champion, and then we follow Sydney, who comes from kind of like an unseen world and is elected to duel him. So definitely a book that seems interesting. I've heard nothing but good things about it. It's not very long. It feels like it would be a really quick-paced, fun, standalone fantasy, and I'm very excited to read it. The next book was sent to me by one of my patrons, Patrick, so thank you so much for sending this to me. And this is Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. This is part of his middle trilogy that comes after the First Law trilogy, and it is the next trilogy that I plan on reading, so I'm slowly acquiring the books. I really have no idea what this trilogy is about, and quite honestly, I want to go into it blind. All I know is that I'm ready to read more Joe Abercrombie, and I'm glad I finally have some more of his books in my possession. The next two books, one of my patrons and subscribers, Jennifer, sent me, so thank you so much, Jennifer. And the first one is Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Broca. This is a young adult contemporary, which isn't normally in my wheelhouse, but the reason that I thought this book sounded interesting is that it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So I really like retellings. I really like Shakespeare, and I'm always looking for books that are retellings because I like seeing how authors kind of spin classic stories, especially Romeo and Juliet. But in this book, we follow a girl named Megan, spelled like my name and everything, and all of her ex-boyfriends seem to find true love after dating her, and she is someone who's really involved in theater, but she's kind of like the backstage part of the theater production. She has no idea how she got cast as Juliet, and she ends up meeting the actor who's playing Romeo, and obviously you know there's going to be a romance and stuff's going to happen, so it sounds really cute, and like I said, I'm interested to see how our author spins such an original tale, so I'm glad to have this one too. And then she was such a darling and sent me A Plague of Giants by Kevin Hearn, and I had never heard of this book before, and I thought I hadn't heard of the author, but then when I started kind of looking up other stuff that he's written, you know, I realized that he wrote the Iron Druid series, which is the only thing I knew about him, but Jennifer said this was one of her favorite or underrated series, and I'm always looking for new stuff to read, so I'm excited to have it. All I know is that it follows a world where children can speak to beasts, giants exist and can wield fire, and there are bards who are shapeshifters. So it sounds like a really cool spin on classic fantasy, and one that has definitely piqued my interest. The next was a birthday present from Steph, a bookish friend, and that is Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. For the life of me, I can't remember who suggested this book to me, so if it was one of you guys, let me know in the comments, because we were talking about it and I was like, that sounds really interesting. So I added it to my Amazon wish list, and again, sounds really interesting, and I'm so glad to finally have it. But this is a fantasy series that sounds really unique. It is kind of flintlock, so it does involve guns and things like that, But apparently, the way that magic works in this world is that you pay for it through memories. And we follow a main character who was labeled as a traitor because his father killed the king's son 10 years past. So he is kind of having to atone for his father's sins. And it seems like something happened to his memories. Our main character's name is Michael, to his memories. And he knows that if he can get that information back, it might kind of clear up some things and answer some questions that he has. And in this world, it is ruled by a very, very dictator like royal family who is exploiting the people and magic and memories. And just the whole concept of paying for magic with memories, it sounds really interesting. And the cover is absolutely gorgeous with the broken moon. I love it. So thank you, Steph, for sending this to me. The next two books my hubby actually got me for my birthday, and that one is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. So this is the trilogy that comes after the middle trilogy, the Red Country trilogy. So I wasn't really sure of what trilogy you needed to read first, so I do have a while before I'm going to be able to get into this series. So I do plan on reading Red Country, Best Served Cold, and Heroes, obviously before I read this, but it is nice to at least have the first book in the follow-up trilogy because I'm really sure that I'll be able to get through the other one fairly quickly. And once again, I have no clue what this is about. I'm not going to look at the synopsis because I want to go into it blind. I'm just slowly collecting Joe Abercrombie's work. Then we have Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is another book that I've had on my radar for the longest time, so I decided to just pick it up. In this world, we follow humanity who leaves Earth, which is dying, to try and find another planet to start over on. And they come across this planet that looks like it's already been terraformed. It is habitable for human life, but there is actually a species on this planet already. And as humans attempt to colonize it, these two species clash. I've heard that this series is really good. It makes you question things after you're done reading it. It's one of those books that kind of resonates with you. So once again, another one that I'm glad to finally have in my collection, and I was actually thinking about maybe getting to it this year, but I haven't decided yet. The next two books are also gifts. It was so funny because I was mentoring a fellow teacher at my school, and she was just a sweetheart and gave me a $25 Barnes & Noble gift card as a thank you for my time, which she didn't have to do, but I definitely spent that gift card. And the first book I got with it was The Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. If y'all didn't see my Hyperion review, I will link it up in the cards. I read Hyperion in April and absolutely loved it, so there's no way I was not going to get the sequel. And I'm kind of upset because the version that I have of Hyperion, apparently they didn't make The Fall of Hyperion in that version, so I had to get the mass market paperback, but I'm glad to have it because that cliffhanger at the end, I am not satisfied. I need to know what happens to our characters and their journey. So one that I'm thinking about getting to in May. And the next book I got was The Book of M by Pun Shepherd, and it was someone had commented on one of my videos, I think last year, and recommended this book to me. And no joke, this book has been in my memory since that time because I looked it up and I'm like, that is awesome. So it was described as more of a horror to me, but then I've also had people tell me that it's more of a sci-fi fantasy. So I really have no idea what to expect with this book. I think it has horror elements. I think it has fantasy and sci-fi elements. So now I am super intrigued. But from what I gather about this plot is that one day there's a man who loses his shadow, and it's kind of like a plague that starts spreading. People start losing these shadows, and as a result, they develop these magical abilities. But then again, as a result of the magical abilities, people start losing their memories. And it kind of just snowballs from there. And that sounds like something that I've never read before. I really want to get to this book probably over summer because it sounds just super interesting, like nothing I've ever read before, and it's fairly short, and I've just heard nothing but good things about it. And lastly, we have two books that I got myself. The first one is Sing Me Forgotten by Jessica Olsen. This is a YA fantasy. It was on one of my most anticipated fantasy releases of the spring, and I was going to get it from my library, but I decided to splurge and grab a copy for myself because it reminds me of The Phantom of the Opera. So if you all don't know, I love The Phantom of the Opera. It's one of my favorite stories. If this is any type of spin or retelling, I'm going to want to read it. In this book, we follow Ista, and when she was a child, she was basically captured by this opera house owner because he found out that she had these magical abilities. But when people sing, she can actually interpret their memories, kind of like see their thoughts and memories, and the opera house owner uses that against them, and he won't let her leave because he's exploiting her gift. And then one day she encounters a boy whose memories she cannot access, and she realizes that he can help her escape. So it just sounds like a cute, fun YA, one that has a really interesting magic system. And like I said, if it's anything with Phantom of the Opera elements, I'm probably going to enjoy it. Plus, this book is like right under 300 pages. It's super short. I was thinking about just maybe trying to knock it out in a weekend, and I'm excited to finally have it. And lastly, I got Sphere by Michael Crichton. Honestly, I've never read a Michael Crichton book before, and some awesome people recommended this one to me, and it seems right up my alley because I do like me some mystery and sci-fi, but I'm excited to have my first Michael Crichton book. The only thing I know about this book is that it follows a team who was hired to investigate this spaceship type thing that was discovered thousands of feet below the South Pacific Ocean, and it follows their journey, what they find inside, probably some alien life, maybe something about the truth of humanity. Like I said, heard a lot of good things about it. It's recommended to me, and maybe this will start me on a Michael Crichton rabbit hole. I don't know, hopefully. All right, you guys, so that is it for my May book haul. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you've gotten any new books recently and what they were, and I will see you all soon in another video. Goodbye!